The story concerns one up-and-coming governor of a colony on a world close to the Red Line, whose daughter and daughter's best friend are stolen by slave catchers on Constantinopolis. For the knowledge and military skill necessary to accomplish this act, Governor Shelton volunteers to mind fuse with a dead soldier, a Colonel John Stack, who was once the de facto mayor of Kromtepnaha-Makan, the biggest megalopolis on Newcock. Catch is, that wasn't the whole story with Stack, which Andal finds out after having fused with Stack's spirits and thoughts and abilities.
His orbiter was a rental and had a strange smell. Of course, every world had a different odor. The trip through the thick atmosphere cooked what grime had built up on the skin of the ship. None of that bothered the fuser. Dr. Huan Hong stepped on the MacArthur, carrying a suitcase that looked big enough to smuggle a small child. His gray suit was threadbare. His shoes spoke of intermittent, high-paying gigs. The junky ticks in his muscles were almost imperceptible. His right eye had more barrels than Uriah's Fletcher, and switched filters or lenses without prompt to anyone but himself, which was jarring. Hong didn't say much on the walk to the medical bay. His oggy eyes searched for any clues to who he was dealing with.
Looks like a military vessel, he whispered in his dead lizard voice. Expensive. Simak ignored him until they stopped at the double doors to the medical bay. Considering your fee, I trust we can depend on your discretion. Dr. Hong bowed as Simak opened the door. The AI greeted them before scanning them for basic medical needs and beginning to cough up a report. Simak used his beam to override the AI and send it back to resting position. Hong scanned the room. Acceptable. The fuser opened his briefcase, which contained a small computer pane, a neatly folded lab coat, and a few capped random tools set in black foam rubber. Most of the foam, though, was taken up by several fuse-inch ports that could be loaded onto the back of human skulls for uploads and backup storage. Fuse-inches were sensitive devices.
In the current modality, crossbred chimera whose technology originated on 3 different worlds, but mainly Prime. Nestled in the middle of a crystal was a Finjar mineral with no real place in the periodic table. Little bugs called it thinking glass, said that it could trap souls. In a quantum sense, they were right, though they couldn't explain it any better than humans could. The fuser swung the lab coat over his shoulders and began. He took 15 minutes to set up. He was brisk. Arraying his tools next to the surgical table, he blipped on his pane and connected to the Newcock satellite grid. Once seated,
he regarded Simak once more. Colonel Stack was one of the few stable influences on this rock by all accounts. The fuser said matter-of-factly, looking around as if the place were bugged, then giving Simak a knowing smirk. Yet I found him by midnight requisition on the black market. He has been on hold in the database, waiting for someone able to pay. Why didn't he have a body or a backup plan? Dr. Hong shrugged. He wore a fuse-inch on the back of his neck as a kind of backup drive, if you will, but it is not that simple. The Expanse made body theft illegal. Not an issue out here. However, I don't think the man planned on dying so soon. Lucky for you, he didn't plan ahead.
The pain signaled him, and the fuser turned to link with it. Dr. Hong's sibilant whisper was nowhere near as loud as the old artificial right eye changing lenses. Using local feed for this transfer will sadly make the fuse decohere faster. 36 hours and this receiver of yours will, more or less, become Colonel Stack. Probably just before dying of a psychotic episode. 2 souls in 1 mind is an ugly thing. He shrugged eloquently. Simak saw a very old triad gang tattoo poking out from the right cuff of his lab coat. But he didn't ask. You go to work with the tools you have, not what Santa Claus hasn't yet brought. Simak snorted. What race grabbed this first? Those slugs? The ones from out near Strela that... But all Hong's eyes were bright as he shook his head, making an immediately dismissive motion with one spiny golden hand.
We stole this first from the Makaliki, after their first contact with Old Earth, but well before their diaspora. It has limited uses. Psychotherapy. Motivation. In Colonel Stack's case, from what I myself know of the man, which isn't much. Here a troubled look crossed Dr. Hong's seamed features, gone like a patch of cold water in a swimming pool. Being the high-profile law enforcement officer he was, rather like the U.S. Marshals in old Earth Wild Western stories, well, this is going to cost your studio the topmost value it is worth, which is considerable. Simak pursed his lips. You've spoken with my bosses already. I gave you the freak. He tapped his temple. The fuser nodded curtly. To be sure. What is the expression? A blank check? I like that just fine. I like many aspects of this just fine. For research. Into Simak's net flashed a picture of Sun Makbul the way Hong imagined her. The things he imagined doing. You know, of course, Hong said out loud as Simak gasped, Oh, your secrets are safe with me, but I won't help you with your investigation. You understand I cannot involve myself in such matters. Simak had his back turned to Hong. You don't know anything. Oh, I hear things. Lots of children end up on this world. Honestly, there are few families in the expanse with the money and resources to do this. When do I meet the governor? Simak finally looked up. And you know, you grave-robbing thing, that we could kill your ass right now if we didn't need you. Hong's laugh sounded like a body bubbling away in acid. Lucky you need me then. Let's not forget I have to do the extraction. Fuck you, Fuser, Simak told him, glancing at the one-way glass. He guessed that Riz gasped and Andal frowned. Hong was still talking. This isn't the expanse, sweetheart. We fuck what we like and we eat who we want. If your girls are down there on Newcock, they better join the party or become a food group. Dr. Hong laid out his surgical tools on the table,
waiting with his hands behind his back. Andal watched him after Simak left the room and joined them. Hong knew they were watching. He stared at the mirror. Simak opened the door, sitting in the chair next to Riz. Andal sat ready in his surgical gown. He's filthy, Riz whispered. He's the best available, Simak answered, as if that was any answer at all. An uncomfortable silence descended on the small room. Andal punched his open palm, rose, and left them behind. The double doors to the impromptu operating theater opened to a smiling Dr. Hong. Governor Shelton, it's an honor to meet you. Andal silently walked over to the table and lay face down on the cold steel, resting his face in the open space, looking at the floor. The cold air on his skin gave Andal goosebumps as Hong opened the gown, leaving his naked backside exposed. Just a little prick, Hong tittered. A needle went into the back of Andal's arm. Andal immediately felt woozy as Hong spread some cold on the back of his neck, rubbing it firmly. I'm not going to lie to you, Governor. This is going to hurt like hell. Andal felt his body weaken, like his brain was floating in zero-G, curiously separated from his body. He had no grasp of how much time had passed. Hours could have ticked by as he lay on the cold table, pinprick after pinprick. In the mirror, he could see the operation, but it hurt his head and left his consciousness swimming. So he only looked after the worst waves of pain. It looked like the fuser was sewing on his back. Hong's voice came from somewhere
far above, off and away. I suppose you're wondering what I am doing. Spinal wrap. Nanotime release to keep your spinal fluid from backwashing into your skull. The fusenge really mucks shit up. Don't forget, it attaches itself to your memory centers. It will cause slight internal bleeding. Most just risk the brain damage. Hong had Andal's neck open and had cleared the tiny hole that would store the central fusenge cluster port under his skin. He got down in a catcher stance beneath the table so he could look at Andal face to face, close enough for Andal to see the doctor's ruined pupil shifting back to natural dilation behind the whirling Augie. Look, I'm about to commence the final steps, Governor, so let's you and I go over a few things. Feeling slightly too weak to speak, Andal grunted assent. Hong held up the fusenge disc. Right. So this is the spiritual remains of one Colonel John Stack. Once I pop this into place, there are no refunds, and it can't be done a second time. Do you understand? Yes, Andal whispered at great effort. Right. For every hour of integration, the host mind loses its grip. The visiting mind gains strength. This, of course, has been explained to you already in some detail. You're a well-educated man, Governor, so you can grasp how much this will close in on you, so to speak. There is an out. I am giving it to you now. I will remain set up here, or you can come down to my office dirt side to perform the operation, but you must allow 20 minutes for safe extraction. What? Andal grunted back, trying to move. Well, if you need to extract in a pinch, a razor blade will do it, but I wouldn't suggest that course. This was new. Why not? Because 85% of the fuckers who did it that way bled out. You hold on to that new roommate of yours that long, you may find that to be a pleasant alternative. That's a great comfort, Doc. I wouldn't suggest anything longer than a fiver into a fuse, but if shit really goes cross, the absolute maximum anyone has survived and been nursed back to sanity from a fuse is 36 hours. Noted. Look, I do this for a living, but I can tell you that that brain of yours was only meant to hold one soul, so don't fuck around. Most people just do this for tests, important meetings, a hot date. It is a short-term solution. I suggest you get your affairs in order as quickly as possible. Hong stood straight, holding the small gray cluster port and fuse-inch chip over the back of Andal's neck. You might feel some intense emotions in the initial moments of transfer. Ride them out. A ghost of the provincial barefoot doctor back along some brighter branch of his checkered past gleamed from his unaugied eye. Plant your feet and think about sending the energy out through the pelvic floor. Remember this chant?
Nobody in my body but me. Nobody in my body but me. Hong waited until Governor Shelton repeated the incantation twice. Then he used his gloved thumb to push the chip and port into place with a click before fusing the final connections. Andal felt stunned awake. Sunset on Newcock, long and purple as a torn ligament, taking forever. Hot, hotter than Gila 2 on Constantinopolis, in the hottest zenith of December. Fucking hot. Hot enough to sap the salt and spirit of a man and fry his soul in the concrete. The team were snuffed. He had to go. He had to. His honor, his sacrifice, his girls. The girls had to hold on to himself. Andal's brain was changing. Another writer coming to the fore. Black eyes in the mirror when he looked soul black. A birthmark like a broken heart on a seamed tan cheek. Eyebrows like Lee Marvin in those old Earth war flicks. Gray crew cut, waxed to attention. Smirking half-conscious in the mirror. Marty, hold up your little vipers, snarked the face in his reflection. Where he knew he had lay on too clean a clinic bed, it was just an exam table with too many parts. As Simac and the good Dr. Hong monitored him for a psychotic episode and fled the slow drips with infinite care. Now you got me. And I'm too dead to have any business interests. You think? The white smile broadened.
Linear apperception. Remember how you got here? Andal tried and wondered which was real. Layer on layer of empty fake code peeled away. A cover mind in several parts in case the fuse-inch was scanned before use. Hong hadn't scanned Stack's fuse-inch before use. He trusted Stack's legend. Everyone trusted a legend. But if the cover mind layers had been penetrated, the posit core fuse-inch would have been sliced into tiny pieces and said pieces shot individually into space in separate directions so that they could never cohere again. Andal learned of Stack in freshman history back at university, but never put much import on the name. Until now. This fucker put down 3 redliner insurgencies, he remembered. That mess in Managua that Dad talked about all the time, too. Andal heard a voice cursing in the back of his mind. Everything went dark. Then Andal was shocked awake again, this time for real. Dr. Hong was lying on top of him, with a syringe jabbed into his chest, juicing adrenaline straight into the aorta. Andal threw him off, then jumped onto the cold floor. Riz caught him. He could see Sun and Simac staring. Riz held on tightly to his arms. The surgical gown was at least tied in the back now. Andal pulled the syringe from his chest and threw it. It bounced. His legs felt like half-cooked pasta, and he stumbled drunkenly around. Riz tried to help him walk. Her husband fell toward her. She held him up again,
this time in a bear hug. Andal, are you all right? Andal looked around the room. He didn't feel anything. No special thoughts occurred to him. No alien memories appeared. If he had the strength, he would strangle the doctor for the fraud he'd put him through. Hong wasn't even looking at him. His equilibrium will normalize. His strength will return at any moment. Really? Thought Andal. He turned around, staring at Dr. Hong. The doctor smiled. He wouldn't smile like that if he knew what I was thinking. I don't feel any different. Do any test you like,
the fuser replied confidently. Simak and Riz shared a look while they considered that. Soon finally stepped forward, holding up the breech, stock, barrel, and power supply of a pulse pistol, Simak's idea mere minutes before. What am I supposed to... Andal began. Yet, when Sun threw the pieces, they turned in the air as he watched, slowly. Takahashi. Odd red letters in his net said back, 100 amp pulse pistol, 9mm standard barrel, naming the pieces as he caught them locking together with fingers that knew their work and danced for the lords of the gun so many times that even thought was gone. The catch as involuntary as a duck snapping its beak skyward to catch a crust of bread. The last piece of the pulsar snapped together and sang a high-pitched note as the initial charge powered up. Before Andal realized it, Hung was backing away with his hands up. He passed. Now point that heater somewhere else. I'm plenty warm enough. Simak pushed Andal's arm, pointing the pulsar at the floor. Riz stepped forward, looking into her husband's eyes, and gingerly relieved him of the weapon. Andal wondered if his eyes looked different. Something on his wife's face spoke to him. She was scared of something she saw there. He held her close, trying to comfort her. Hong appeared beside them. That's awful sweet, but I wasn't being overly dramatic about that timeline. You have 35.5 hours left. Andal slipped his arm around Riz's back and pulled her into a kiss. It was aggressive but not out of character. He felt her lower lip touch his, savoring the warmth of her breath. He could sense the nervous tension of the others in the room and didn't care. Simak cleared his throat, point taken. Andal stepped back, snapping his fingers at Simak. Get me dirt side, stat! Before he'd even realized he'd done it, Simak snapped to attention. Everyone looked at both of them, but moved to do exactly that. Riz watched her husband leave, her face full of more questions than answers.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that reading from Flesh Trade by David Agranoff and Edward Morris. The book is available now on Amazon, so you can go and order it either in paperback or Kindle. And please, if we're independent science fiction authors, so we, appreciate every share that we can get. So if you like the reading, please share it with your friends. If you like the book, please tell people and write a review on Amazon. Every review counts. Thanks.